For centuries, one practice has existed, a method so deep and so transformative that it was hidden on purpose, not because it failed to work, but precisely because it worked too well. Imagine an ancient key, lost in the depths of time, able to throw open the most hidden of gates, the memory of your soul. This method gives you no new knowledge. It removes the veil of everything that was imposed on you. The great deception was never that we were kept in ignorance. It was that we were made to believe we are something we have never truly been. I have my own name for this practice, and you will hear it through the whole of this journey: the unforgetting. It is not a technique for learning something new. It is the quiet ending of a very old forgetting. What if, right now, you remembered your true purpose? What if, instead of searching outside yourself, you discovered a voice within that has been beside you all along? And what if that voice could be awakened by a method once available only to chosen disciples, carefully guarded from anyone who would turn it into an instrument of power? This is more than a story. It is a call and a guide to a practice that was concealed, not for its darkness, but for its light, a light too bright. The rulers of this world fear an awakened soul more than they fear a sleeping army. Together, we will walk through the secret origins of the unforgetting, through its roots and forgotten teachings of wisdom. We will see why it was suppressed, distorted, and ridiculed by systems that prefer souls asleep. And you will learn how to apply it in practice so you can remember your true essence. Not merely a name or a biography, but a vibration, a living and immortal awareness. We will turn to legends, to symbols, to ancient wisdom, to untangle what was tangled and return to the essence. This is an experience from within, if you are ready to perceive with more than the mind alone. Because the unforgetting is not something you memorize, it is something you feel and awaken, and above all, something you remember. If you are ready to look deeper than the surface, to question what you were taught about yourself, and to move toward what your soul has always kept, this video may become that very spark. Forbidden does not always mean dangerous. Sometimes it only means the truth is too powerful to be shared freely. Before we go further, I want to say one thing plainly. I am not asking you to believe me. I am asking you to listen and to check every word against something older than belief, your own inner knowing. Nearly every ancient tradition carries the same message, a quiet echo across continents and centuries. It is the idea that humanity has forgotten its true nature, that ordinary life resembles a dream, a veil between us and the authentic self, and that there are paths and techniques for awakening this sacred memory. But here lies the riddle. You will not find these practices in textbooks, in school programs, or in official doctrines. They were hidden, banned, turned into superstition, mocked, and buried inside symbols so that no one would uncover their real power. In ancient Egypt, for example, temple priests conducted concealed ceremonies of initiation where disciples lived through a symbolic departure. Their bodies lay motionless for long hours while a master guided their consciousness through unseen spiritual worlds. When they returned, they were different. They had crossed the boundary, and they had remembered. In the Hellenic world, the Orphic teachings spoke of a soul confined within flesh, not as a curse, but as a stage of purification. They practiced chanting, breathing techniques, and trance rhythms that allowed the soul to slip free of its earthly shell for a time and behold its celestial origin. For the initiate, this experience was more than a revelation. It was an irreversible transformation. In ancient India, the sages known as the rishis passed down the notion of smarana, the recollection of what the soul already knows. For them, spiritual blindness was never a lack of information. It was a severed connection. The way home led not through gathering knowledge, but through releasing the unnecessary, through inner detachment, silence, and the harmonizing of vibrations, so that consciousness could return to its original state. The Gnostics of the early centuries taught the same secret in their own tongue. They said a divine spark lives inside every human being, a fragment of boundless light that fell into matter and forgot its home. Their scriptures read like letters to a sleeper, written to wake that spark and remind it where it came from. And among the Sufi mystics, the heart of the path is a practice called dhikr, a word that literally means remembrance. Repeating the sacred with the whole of your being, hour after hour, until the heart awakens and recalls a presence it never truly lost. In every one of these examples, the core of the method is the same, even when the form differs. None of this is about knowing the outer world. It is about reuniting with the spiritual memory concealed in your depths. And I will admit what moves me most in these traditions. It is not their age and not their mystery. It is their stubbornness. Continents and centuries apart, they kept repeating the same quiet instruction. Remember. Then came the darkness, with holy wars, the ossification of spirituality, and the rise of external control over inner truth. What had once been a road to memory turned into hollow rites, rigid doctrines, or heresy. The methods were broken into fragments. The symbols were buried inside mythology, and the root teachings were branded a threat. But a threat to whom? To the structures that want to keep you in oblivion. Because once a soul remembers its essence, nothing can hold it anymore. Today, this knowledge is stirring again, not as a novelty, but as a memory in those who have grown ripe enough to receive it. And here is the most astonishing part. This so-called forbidden technique, the unforgetting, has always existed inside you, resting in the deepest layers of your being, waiting for you to recognize it. Before the unforgetting can open, one thing must be seen anew. The soul does not need to study who it is. It needs to remember. And this memory is born not from reasoning, but from a vibration of a particular purity. When that purity awakens in you, everything false begins to fall away, and what is true emerges with a quiet radiance. But how do you arrive at this purity? The method is not a spell, and it is not an outer ritual. It is an inner movement, a sequence of steps that brings your body, mind, energy, and awareness into accord until the memory of the soul appears through that resonance as a living experience. Picture the soul as a flawless melody that lies buried under noise, under interference, imposed beliefs, old wounds, and programming. The method works like a tuning fork. It adds nothing new. It simply removes what muffles the sound. And once everything is cleansed and aligned, the original melody begins to play again. The unforgetting unfolds in 3 principal stages. Stage 1 is the release of what is not yours. This first stage is the hardest. It means recognizing the inner voices that do not belong to you. The thoughts accepted without examination, the masks put on without awareness. You look inward and observe. What do you think about? What do you strive for? What do you fear? And you ask yourself the question, is this authentically mine, or was it brought in from outside? The method teaches you to clear away old mental patterns through clear seeing. Whatever was not built from your authentic essence can be dismantled by that same essence once awareness arrives. I will be honest with you. Of the 3 stages, this first one asked the most of me. Not because it is complicated, but because it is uncomfortable to discover how many of the voices in your head never belong to you. Stage 2 is the awakening of inner sensing. When the noise subsides, something reveals itself that was always present in you, yet remained unnoticed. This is inner sensing, which is neither rational nor emotional. It is direct perception. You do not force it awake, you attune yourself to it. The method calls this sensing forth through conscious breathing, silent rituals, full presence in the body, and work with inner images. Here is the key idea. Whatever you envision with attention and sincerity, the soul accepts as real. This imagination is a bridge. The symbols used here, the inner fire, the lotus of the heart, the mirror of the soul, are primordial images that bring ancient memory back to life. Applied rightly, they awaken inner revelations, experiences, and connections. Stage 3 is resonance with the true name. The deep spiritual currents speak of a hidden name of the soul, not a word that can be spoken, but a unique sound. The method teaches that every being carries its own sacred wave. When you call to it by embodying a particular state, you know it instantly, as if gates sealed for centuries had suddenly swung open. You remember not with the mind, but with vibration. You feel a deep certainty that says, "This is me. I have always been this, and I simply forgot." This path is not instantaneous. It asks for devotion, sincerity, and resolve. But once it begins, something irreversible takes place. A part of you starts to look out from a deeper, quieter, more authentic place. And that is where the real journey begins. As the unforgetting does its work, as the layers of the false grow thin and your inner vibration becomes purer, something happens that words can barely carry. The soul remembers. It is like a light switching on inside a room that was always yours, yet you had never explored it. A presence appears, a part of you that has been waiting for this meeting, the self that loves unconditionally, trusts without fear, and knows without ever being taught. At this stage, awakening becomes real and tangible. The soul begins to recognize where it came from. But a quiet warning belongs here, because not everything you uncover will be light. As you remember who you are, you also come to see who you are not. Mistakes, unfinished chapters, unhealed wounds rise to the surface. And that is an essential part of the process, liberation. You cannot embrace the wholeness of the soul without also meeting its shadow. Practiced rightly, this method reveals not only your light, but what was hidden even from yourself. That is why many traditions say this practice is dangerous for the unprepared. An honest meeting with the soul demands spiritual maturity. Not maturity in years, but readiness to face the truth. I want to be direct here, because this is the part most retellings soften. Meeting your own shadow is not pleasant. And still, I would not trade what it opens for any comfort. At this depth, dedicated practitioners often enter what could be called a conscious trance. This is not a trance in the psychological sense. There is no loss of self and no hypnosis, only expanded awareness. The soul takes the reins of perception. You feel your body, yet you also watch your surroundings from a certain distance. You still think, but thought no longer rules over you. It is as though consciousness takes a step back from the ego. From this silent place, everything takes on a different meaning. Emotions become clearer, perception widens, and time turns fluid. Sudden insights arrive without logic, and memories surface, memories of past lives or of ancestors. Knowledge you never studied, yet somehow carry with you. Here, the unforgetting reaches its deepest part. It is no longer about practicing, but about living in this state. You begin to live from a new center, not wearing masks, but acting from the authentic self. Decisions become more transparent, relationships more honest, and fears weaker. And here is the paradox. The soul does not learn who it is, it remembers. This remembering is a steady vibration you recognize as home. Here the most sacred thing takes place. The soul comes to rest. Once this happens, nothing remains as it was. The body stays, life keeps flowing, but something inside has awakened, never to fall asleep again. And this is why the unforgetting was called forbidden, not because it endangers you, but because it threatens everything that kept you sleeping. Now that you have grasped the essence of the unforgetting, let us move to the concrete practices. These are precise instructions you can begin applying today. The first practice is morning clearing, and it takes 5 to 10 minutes. The aim of this practice is to free yourself from imposed voices and attune to your true self. How is it done? When you wake, don't reach straight for your phone. Sit in silence and close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths in and out. Ask yourself, aloud or silently, of everything I will think about today, what is actually mine? What fears am I carrying that do not belong to me? Whose expectations am I fulfilling instead of my own? Don't chase the answers. Just let the questions resonate within you. Then say, today I release everything that is not mine. I live from my center. What does this give you? You begin the day not on autopilot, but from awareness. The imposed programs grow weaker. The second practice is the breath of remembrance, 10 minutes. The aim of this practice is to activate your inner sensing and attune to the purity of the soul. How is it done? Sit comfortably, keeping your back straight but relaxed. Place one hand on your heart and the other on your belly. Breathe in this pattern. Inhale through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale through the mouth for 6, and pause for 2. Repeat for 10 to 15 cycles. With every inhale, picture light entering your body through the crown of your head. With every exhale, picture everything false leaving you. When you finish, sit in silence for 2 or 3 minutes and just observe your sensations. What does this give you? The breath is a bridge between body and spirit. This practice calms the mind and opens the way to inner knowing. The third practice is work with the symbol of the soul, 15 minutes. The aim of this practice is to awaken archetypal memory through visualization. Choose one of the symbols: the inner flame for clarity and strength, the lotus in the heart for openness and love, or the mirror at the center of the forehead for wisdom and vision. How is the practice done? Sit in silence and close your eyes. Picture your chosen symbol at the center of your chest or at the third eye if you chose the mirror. At first, the image may be blurry, and that's normal. Breathe calmly, and with each inhale, the symbol grows brighter. Feel it pulsing in rhythm with your breath. Then silently ask it, "What do you want to show me?" Don't think and don't analyze. Simply watch what arises, whether images, sensations, or words. After 10 or 15 minutes, slowly open your eyes and write down everything that came. What does this give you? Symbols are not inventions. They are keys to the collective, unconscious, and they awaken what sleeps in the depths. The fourth practice is the search for the true name, and it is only for those who are ready. Its aim is to attune to the unique vibration of your own soul. One thing matters here. This practice requires inner stillness, so never do it in a hurry. How is it done? Set aside 30 minutes of complete solitude. Switch off your phone and sit in silence. Breathe deeply for 5 minutes, then place a hand on your heart. Ask within, if my soul were a sound, what sound would it be? Don't invent an answer, just listen. What may come is a vowel, an ah, an o, an e, an u, a syllable like ra, ma, a melody, or a vibration without any sound at all. When you feel something, repeat it aloud or within. Keep repeating that sound for 10 to 15 minutes, like a mantra, and watch how your state changes. What does this give you? This is your true name, not for others, but for you. And when you speak it, the soul recognizes itself. The fifth practice is the evening inventory, 5 minutes. The aim of this practice is to trace where you lived from the mask and where you lived from the soul. How is it done? Before sleep, sit down with a notebook and recall your day. Write honestly. Which decisions did I make from fear rather than from my center? Which words did I say to please rather than from sincerity? Which of my actions were automatic and which were conscious? Don't judge yourself, just observe. Then write, tomorrow I choose to live from my center in these situations. List 1 or 2 moments. What does this give you? Awareness grows not from ideas, but from observation. This practice reveals your patterns. The sixth practice is silence once a week. The aim of this practice is to let the soul speak without the interference of the mind. Choose 1 day a week, or at least half a day. On that day, do not speak unless it is necessary. Skip music, podcasts, and news. Stay away from videos and social media, and simply be. If you need to communicate, do it in writing or with gestures. Observe what happens inside you when the outer noise falls away. What does this give you? In silence, the soul receives space. You begin to hear what was always there, but was drowning in the noise. The seventh practice is living from the center, and you do it daily. The aim of this practice is to turn ordinary actions into acts of presence. Choose 3 simple actions each day. Your morning coffee or tea, walking, washing the dishes, and do them with complete awareness. Feel every movement and notice each taste, scent, and sensation. Don't think about the past or the future. Be here now. Before each action, ask, am I doing this from the mask or from the soul? What does this give you? The ordinary becomes sacred, and presence takes root in every moment. Now pay attention, because this matters. How should you practice? Don't attempt everything at once. Choose 2 or 3 practices that call to you. The schedule for beginners looks like this. In the morning, the first practice for 5 minutes, plus the second practice for 10 minutes. During the day, the 7th practice, conscious actions. In the evening, the 5th practice, the inventory, for 5 minutes. In total, that is 20 to 30 minutes a day for yourself. And now the schedule for the advanced. Add the 3rd practice, the symbol, 3 times a week, the 4th practice, the true name, once a week, and the 6th practice, silence, once a week. The main rule, better 10 minutes every day than 2 hours once a month. Remembrance comes through constancy, not through intensity. And if you ask me which of these practices to hold on to on the days when everything slips, hold on to the breath. For me, it was the one that first made silence feel inhabited rather than empty. And how will you know that it is working? The signs are quieter than you might expect. You catch yourself pausing before you react, where before you would have answered on autopilot. Silence stops feeling empty and starts feeling full. Old worries still come, but they pass through you faster, as if they have less to hold on to. You begin to notice whose voice is speaking in your head, and sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary moment, a calm certainty arises for no reason at all, a sense of being exactly where you should be. If any of this has started happening, the memory is already stirring. Don't measure it, just keep going. And if nothing seems to happen at all, look first at the most common mistakes. The first is hunting for an experience. You sit down waiting for lights and visions, and that very expectation is noise. Let go of the result. The second is turning the practice into another task on a list, rushed and mechanical. 10 present minutes carry more power than an hour of distracted repetition. The third is judging yourself when the mind wanders. The wandering is not failure. Noticing it is the practice. And the fourth is quitting too soon. The layers took years to form. Give them weeks, not days, to soften. If you avoid these 4 traps, the unforgetting will do its quiet work. Awakening is not a one-time event. It is a way of life. Even a brief moment of deep revelation does not mean you will automatically remain in that state. The practices from the previous chapter are the foundation. But remembrance is anchored not only through formal techniques, it lives in how you inhabit every moment. True spiritual power is not about glowing in a solitary cave. It is about staying awake amid the noise of life. Here are the principles that turn ordinary life into a continuous practice of remembrance. The first principle is active silence. The soul remembers best in silence, not merely the absence of sound, but the silence of full, undivided attention. You already know the 6th practice, silence once a week, but this can go deeper. Create islands of silence throughout your day. Spend the first 10 minutes after waking without the phone, without news, and without conversation. Travel the road to work without music or podcasts, simply observing. Before sleep, give yourself 5 minutes of complete stillness. Here is your sanctuary, the place where the echo of your true name begins to come through clearly. The second principle is action as ceremony. You are already practicing conscious presence, the 7th practice. Now raise it to another level and turn any action into a sacred act. Don't just drink your tea with awareness, make a ritual of it. Put the kettle on with an intention. I am preparing the elixir of awakening. As you pour the water, I am filling the vessel with life force. As you take the first sip, I am receiving the gift of the present moment. Do the same with any action. Eating becomes an offering to the body and its temple, walking a pilgrimage toward the center, speech the utterance of sacred sounds, and seeing the contemplation of the divine within the ordinary. Before every important action, ask, am I doing this from the mask or from the soul? When you live from the soul, even the smallest thing becomes sacred, and this keeps the memory alive. The third principle is the purity of your information space. The soul does not forget, but the mind can bury the memory under an avalanche of noise. You already keep the evening inventory, the fifth practice. Add an audit of information to it. Once a week, ask yourself, what have I watched over the past 7 days? What conversations have I taken part in? What images, words, and ideas have I allowed into my space? Which of them nourished the soul, and which cluttered it? Remember, everything that enters through the senses shapes your inner vibration, and vibration is the temple where the memory of the soul reveals itself. Care for your attention the way a master alchemist tends the fire. Now for the concrete steps. Remove from your feed everything that does not resonate with your soul, and limit the news to 10 minutes a day, or give it up entirely. Choose music that lifts you rather than dulls you, and surround yourself with images of beauty instead of chaos. I will not pretend I keep this principle perfectly. Whenever I let the noise flood back in, I feel the difference within days. The memory does not vanish. It simply grows quieter, like a voice behind a wall. That is usually all the reminder I need. The fourth principle is speech from the depths. It takes the fifth practice, the evening inventory, and carries it into your words. Don't simply speak less. Speak from the place where the soul lives. There are 3 rules of sacred speech. The first is not to repeat other people's words, so don't quote gurus, books, or bloggers. Say only what you have lived yourself, and if you do, quote, pass it through your own being. The second is not to speak out of habit. Remove the filler words and drop the automatic. How are you and the automatic fine? Because every word is a choice. The third is to speak as resonance rather than information. Words spoken from memory awaken others, and your voice is a channel, not for ideas, but for attunement. When you speak from the soul, people feel it. Here is the practice. Once a day, pause before you say something and check whether it is coming from the mask or from the center. The fifth principle is to live as if you have already remembered. This is the most powerful principle, and it joins all the practices into one. Even if you have not yet fully remembered, live as though you have. This is not pretense, it is attunement. The soul does not unfold amid constant doubt. It reveals itself when it sees a readiness to live true to your authentic essence, even before full understanding arrives. What does this look like in practice? In the morning, as you wake, say to yourself, I am eternal consciousness living a human experience. Today, I live from this knowing. Through the day, walk as though you carry an ancient inheritance within, and love as though you have loved for centuries. Act from the place where fear does not exist, and make decisions from your center rather than from circumstances. Before sleep, say, I live today from the memory of the soul, and tomorrow I will deepen it further. And remember that remembrance does not come through searching. It comes through vibration, and vibration is born from the way you live. Let us bring it all together into the complete path. You now have 7 concrete practices. Morning clearing takes 5 to 10 minutes. The Breath of Remembrance, 10 minutes. Work with the symbol, 15 minutes, 3 times a week. The search for the true name, 30 minutes once a week. And the evening inventory, 5 minutes, with silence 1 day a week and living from the center running all day long. And you have 5 principles of living. Active silence, the islands of stillness. Action as ceremony, the ritualizing of the ordinary. Purity of information, the hygiene of attention. Speech from the depths, words as resonance. And living as if you have remembered, embodiment before understanding. Now the path for beginners, the first 30 days. Every day, do practice 1 plus practice 2 in the morning, 15 minutes in all, live the second principle of conscious actions during the day, and close the evening with practice 5, the inventory, for 5 minutes. Every week, return to the first principle with islands of silence, the third principle with the audit of information, and the fourth principle with the tracking of speech. In total, that is 20 to 30 minutes of formal practice, plus awareness throughout the day. For the advanced path, add to that base practice 3, the symbol, 3 times a week, practice 4, the true name, once a week, and the day of silence once a week, while the fifth principle, living from remembrance, runs at all times. That comes to 40 to 60 minutes of formal practice, plus deep embodiment. And keep this in mind, better 10 minutes every day than 2 hours once a month. Start small, but start today. Perhaps a voice inside you is already whispering that this is too simple, too late, or not for you. That voice is not yours. Every soul that ever woke up began exactly where you are now, tired, doubting, and half asleep. You don't need to be special, and you don't need to be ready. You only need to begin and keep returning, one quiet morning at a time. Each small practice brings you closer to home, and none of that effort is ever wasted. The road has been waiting for you far longer than you have been waiting for it, so trust it. For centuries, we were told that awakening is hard, that the soul is a mystery beyond comprehension, and that knowing the true self is a privilege reserved for the chosen. But that is not true. The most forbidden truth is not complicated. It is simple, direct, and near. And above all, it is feared most by those who want you asleep. This journey we have taken together is more than a collection of thoughts. It is a map and a signal, a torch for those who feel there is something more, something beyond the name you speak every day, beyond the role you perform, and beyond the story about yourself that you heard from others. You were never that. You are a vibrating particle of eternal consciousness, a note in the cosmic symphony that is still sounding, your ancient memory clothed in the present. And you forgot, as everyone forgot. But here is the key. You can remember. The Unforgetting is not a new invention, and it is not a secret formula sold as a product. It is a reflection of what has always been present within you, the awakening of primordial memory. And most important of all, you do not need to search for it outside. You need no gurus and no perfection. You only need to return to your center, to quiet the noise, and to allow the soul, filled with infinite wisdom, to show you what it has kept all along. To remember who you are is not merely to change your thinking. It is to change how you see the world. You will stop seeing enemies and begin to see mirrors, stop fearing what is coming and begin to honor it, and stop repeating broken stories so you can begin to write from the truth. When that truth comes alive, everything is transformed entirely. You stop needing the approval of others because you are connected to something greater, and you stop needing all the answers because the silence has found its wisdom. You even stop chasing love because you realize that you are love. This is not an empty promise, but an invitation that takes courage to accept, because the path of the soul's remembrance is beautiful, but not always comfortable. It strips away all that is not yours, rebuilds you, and brings you face to face with what was hidden, so that you can choose who you truly are. I do not know at what moment of your life this video has found you, but I trust the part of you that stayed until these words. If this message touches you, if something stirs inside, if a part of you answers, yes, this is for me, then don't let the mind extinguish that spark. Stay close to this path, subscribe, so that the next remembering finds you without any searching. If something in you lit up while listening, mark it with a like. Not for the numbers, but as a small way of saying yes out loud. Then think of one person who is still asleep inside a story that was never theirs, and pass this video to them the way someone once passed the key to you. And when you are ready, write a single word in the comments. Remember. Let it be your first word spoken from the center and a quiet signal to another soul that it is not alone. Because there is no revolution more powerful than an awakened soul. If you do this, others will follow. And without violence, dogmas, or imposed beliefs, the world will begin to change from within, from the place where it all began, from remembrance. You are not here to learn, you are here to remember. And the remembering has already begun.